when I saw the robbery and who did it, I said to my wife, just wait for the script, they're going to ask me.
Hello, welcome to Premier Scene. I'm Claire Bueno, where we get to speak to some real gems tonight at the world premiere of King of Thieves.
I'm doing fine. I mean, if someone turned up, you know. You get here and there's one camera and two people asking for autographs, you're in trouble.
Sir Michael, can you tell us what it was like working with such an ensemble cast?
Well, the thing is, I was working with old friends, people I've worked with before. Ray Winstone was my son in Last Orders, you know, and Tom Courtenay was one of my best friends in Last. So it was very easy. The first thing about all other six of them is that they were all fabulous actors, which is to work with skilled people is such a blessing, you know.
And what was it about the story that attracted you so much?
Well, it was because people were old, and I was old. I got a job.
Was it interesting for you working on a film that's based on a true story?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, and one that only happened 3 years ago. You know, so in a way you don't know the full story because it hasn't come out yet, I guess. But I knew Joe Penner would write a good script, and then you got Michael Caine, you got James Marsh, who's a fantastic director. So you're all right, you know. And then the rest of them, the other mob, come on, and we're cooking, you know. Yeah.
So for an actor, it's all about the script. What was it about this script that kept you turning the page?
The script was great, but in this instance, it was all about the cast. You know what I mean? I couldn't believe that I was being included in this cast, and to this day, I'm still pinching myself.
And with regards to the characters that all of you are playing, they're unsavoury characters. So was it difficult for you to kind of tap into the not so nice side of people's personality?
No, not really. I think you can. A
bit of badness in all of us.
Yeah, there is a little bit, isn't there? A little bit of greed that we can all find deep down if we look for it. No, not really. And it was kind of. I think the trick as well is to not think of them that way. Is to think of them as real people, and they may be criminals, they may be thieves, but they don't think they're bad people, you know. And so your job really is to kind of humanize them as much as possible, rightly or wrongly. You know, the story is the story, and really it's the circumstances and the way they behave in our story post the robbery that really kind of shows their true colours.
Is that interesting for you as an actor because of this conflict that they're all in? Is that an exciting area for you to explore?
Yeah, it is actually. And for Basil, the interesting element was how do you, he's the one character we don't know that much about. And so we got to invent a little bit, and the challenge for me was why is this guy, why are they including him, and B, why is he doing it with them? Like, why is he not doing stuff with mates of his own age? Do you know what I mean? So I needed him to be, I think I wanted Basil to be smart enough and interesting enough and normal enough that he can shut down the alarm systems, get them in the building, and live up to the standards that he's required to for this job. But also, he's a little bit socially awkward, which would explain why Brian Reader, this man of 76, is his mate, and he's not got other mate. You know what I mean? So.
Interesting for you with a director James, who comes from a documentary background. Does he bring that kind of truth and authenticity to the?
He's perfect for it, and also I'd worked with James, and I did Theory of Everything with him, and I just was such a big fan of his, and I love him dearly, and I would have done anything to work with him again anyway, regardless of the cast. So.
You're a contributor with regards to a song in the film. Can you tell us more about that, please?
So I was asked if I would contribute a kind of a very vibey, uplifting song for the end of the movie, which is quite a, you kind of, I guess it's a bit like putting parsley on a meal at the end. I think the phrase goes, "Take it away and no one would know it's gone." But at the same time, it's a thrill. Obviously it's an incredible cast, incredible story. So I tried to contribute something that I think will make people feel good at the end of the movie, despite being left with these slightly confusing, kind of pathetic male bravado kind of characters, Yeah.
Were you given any kind of prerequisites before sort of sitting at the piano
So they weren't exactly sure what they were. I mean, I think, when I've been involved in these things before, they kind of give you a sense of the feeling that they want more than like any kind of direct musical ideas. But in the end, they had they love the lyrics of this song from a Killers song called "The Man," which takes the mickey out of male bravado. You know, it's effectively a joke about, you know, men trying to jostle around for their place, which is exactly what this film is about. And so I really ran with that challenge, and I dug deep into my record collection and found an old kind of 7-inch I picked up in Brazil and sampled this drum beat, and then built the song off that in my studio at home. Yeah.
Because you do reimaginings and of songs of old. What's the pleasure for you as well in bringing songs that we recognise and breathing new life into them?
I think it's just, you know, I'm a music fan. I started out as a music fan. I know it sounds obvious, but I approach music so often as a fan. So I think one of the reasons I like making music so much is I can refer to music I love so much, and that's definitely something I did here. You know, I thought about classic heist scores from the 70s. I thought about you know, great Brazilian kind of funk music from the 70s. I brought that together and mixed it with a Killers song and recorded it live in a band with the best musicians I know. Yeah.
I was going to ask you about working with an amazing cast. Obviously, the last time I saw you was The Death of Stalin, so you're used to working with the creme de la creme.
Yeah, but this lot needed help. You know, they're very limited performers, and I have a wide range and a huge portfolio. So I thought I'd go down and just help them, give them a little tip here and there with the acting and generally, yeah. So yeah, but it was a joy to do. That was really good fun.
So as an actor, it's all about the story for you. What was it that particularly resonated when you read the script?
The dialogue and the wonderful things to say, and the rest of the cast, that was very appealing. But I just thought it would be something I would enjoy doing, and it's something can't remember playing anybody quite as two-faced as Kenny, and I enjoyed it.
I was going to say, because these characters are not particularly sympathetic, so was that interesting exploring that sort of darker side of a person's personality?
Yeah, I mean, he's not as dark as some of them, but no, it was fun because they express themselves in such vivid language, and that was fun to learn and do.
Was it interesting for you playing, being in a story that is true, but still in recent history, really?
The fact that it was true?
Yes, yeah, and still very much in recent history.
Some inventions, my dog, for instance, in real life he didn't have a pointer. So in real life I have a pointer. Now whether James got Tallulah, she was called, the black and white pointer, who I loved her very much. So that was a little invention, because in real life I think he had one of those squat bull terrier.
And what about this script? What attracted you to it?
Well, James Marsh, the director, you know, I love Man on Wire, and I was so curious. And I thought this was a very interesting film for him to be making, you know. Sorry, I've got such a cold. And also, of course, Michael. I mean, I've known Michael for years, but we've never worked together before. And I just thought, well, you know, playing his missus would be great.
What was it about the story that attracted you? Because it's a relatively new story, isn't it?
It's a new story, but it's a true story. And as such, it's a very irresistible true story. It's rare that you find a story like this that has all the shape of a heist film, and its details are so unusual, not least the age of the characters involved. So that was very appealing as a documentary filmmaker from my background, that true stories are something you kind of feel very comfortable with, and this one was just kind of so surprisingly neat as a heist film and so surprisingly original as a kind of the people involved. So it was great to find the story, everyone knew the story, of course, hardly finding it. It announced itself very clearly to all of us, I think.
Was it difficult to get the balance between infusing truth as well as kind of having to build it around a narrative, really?
Well, yeah, the narrative is actually, as given to us by the true story, was very neat and tidy. It has a planning stage, an execution, and a kind of fallout. And the fallout was interesting in this story because it's so kind of mean-spirited and there's so much backstabbing, and we have all these lovely actors yelling at each other for half the film in a very funny, I think, way, and a very sort of revealing way. So yeah, it was the balance between drama and comedy, if you like, is part of the story, and trying to get that right was, I guess, part of our challenge.
Did you yourself visit any of the perpetrators to
No, I didn't feel a need to be honest. I think Ray Winstone had some contact with the character he played, but he had a connection to that character already, which I'm sure he'll tell you about rather than me.
Was it difficult for you as a director to, or interesting even, to visit the theme of greed and that kind of conflict and people turning against each other? Was that something interesting?
Drama is so often about that. It's about conflict. It was always about conflict. In this case, it's conflict amongst people who have a sort of given unity as they go in. In order to do a heist, you have to be together. You have to be a team. You have to collaborate and trust each other. But that trust breaks down once you've got your hands on what it is you're after. That's almost always the case in our imperfect human world, you know.